school year. Thank you for turning on the microphone. Okay. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Vios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for Thursday, June 27, 2019. The Board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Mara?
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered a private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. Roll call, please.
DeCaro?
Here.
DePrima?
Here.
Dunn?
Here.
Ellis Foster?
Here.
Lent?
Here.
Reed? Singh? Silikowski?
Here.
Callie?
Here, and Mr. Singh sends his apologies that he was unable to make it this evening.
Quorum exists.
Thank you. Can we rise for the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. I'd like to have a moment of silence, please, in memoriam of Eliza Akhtar, David Mundy, and Teresa Getz. And the board expresses its deepest sympathy to their family and friends. Thank you. Okay, we have our Code of Ethics Corner highlight of the month, and I believe Mrs. DeCaro volunteered to read that.
Carry out his/her responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with fellow board members, ensure they are well run.
Thank you, Mrs. DeCaro. Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
DeCaro?
Yes.
DePrima?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Lent?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Silikowski?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Okay, a report of the student representative to the board. Dylan, for the last time.
Yes, this is my last meeting. Wow. The year like flew by. So I just want to give a big thank you to everyone, and especially a big thank you to the board for letting me talk every month at these meetings. And I just wanted to introduce the new president for the year, Dominic Rosiak. And he's going to tell you guys who's in the new cabinet.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be working with you all. I'll start from the bottom. Our sophomore executive is Anthony Toronto. Our junior executive is Danny Rita. Our senior executive is Paige Nugent. Our secretary is Jade Wurst. Treasurer Audrey Wilson. Vice President Alex Park, and President Dominic Rosiak.
So I guess this is just goodbye to everyone, and thank you guys so much. So thank you. And for those of you guys are curious, I'm going to Ryder for college, if you guys wanted to know. So thank you. Bye.
Dylan, where'd you go? Just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Good
Oh
luck
my
at
gosh.
Ryder.
Thank you.
And welcome, Dominic. I know those cookies are very
He's been here.
tempting.
Yes. Thank
May
you
I,
so much.
Jill, also? Dylan, thank you so much. It's been a great year. You've been very informative. Good luck to you in the future. Welcome to you. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, Al. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to recognition. We're going to do this a little differently this month, because Mr. Cittadino is not going to read the recognition, because we are recognizing Mr. Cittadino. Move the Board of Education acknowledge Mr. David Cittadino, Superintendent of Schools, for his donation to the district of $4,074, the entire amount of his contractual salary increase for the 2019-2020 school year. These funds will be allocated within the 2019-2020 district budget for the purposes of educating the whole child through social and emotional learning. These funds will be used in programs dealing with mental health issues, addiction, and the LGBTQ community. I just wanted to personally thank Mr. Cittadino. His donation goes beyond just writing a check. His selfless donation is an inspiration to others and embodies what this National District of Character is all about. A true leader leads by example. Thank you, Dave, for being a true leader. Motion first, then discussion. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mrs. DeCaro. Second?
I will second.
Thank you. Discussion.
Yes, I'd like to discuss it. Okay, would also like to acknowledge Dr. Hoker and our board secretary for also taking that deduction. They did not take a pay increase, and all the other administrators and people in our community did not take an increase. I want to thank them.
Good? Okay.
Just to echo what Mr. Sulikowski said, Mr. Cittadino, thank you. I mean, it's been a rough year. I don't know if thank you is enough. You set the precedent for others to follow, as Mr. Sulikowski said. Like I said, it's been a rough year, and you made it at least a little bit better. Thank you for your selfless act, and that's it.
Just to echo everybody, thank you so much, Mr. Cittadino, for leading by example and trying your best to do what you can in this difficult situation. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Roll call, please.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Sulikowski,
Yes.
DeCaro,
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Okay, moving on to superintendent's report.
This is the twice annual superintendent's report that reflects our HIB, violence, vandalism, and controlled dangerous substance usage for period 1 of the school year. Every year superintendents are required, and for the board, these are in your packet. Every year superintendents are required to report to the Board of Education on incidents of violence and vandalism which have occurred in the district during the previous school year. With the passage of Public Law 2010-122 and the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, incidents of HIB, or harassment, intimidation, bullying, as well as violence and vandalism, must be reported twice a year. Period 1 consists of the data from September 1st through December 31st. Period 2 consists of the data of January 1st through June 30th. Both reports are required for a monthly collection and input into the data of the school's reporting system. The Department of Education's Student Data Safety System, SSDS, is used to help districts streamline the entry process. We are required to report both alleged and confirmed HIB cases as well. We are also required to report any incidents for both special education, general education students that may result in disciplinary removal for at least 1/2 a day. Disciplinary removals are defined as an instance in which a child is removed from his or her educational placement for disciplinary purposes, including in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, expulsion, and removal from the educational setting. The student safety data system requires the collection and input of the following area: violence, vandalism, weapons, and substance abuse. Results of violence and vandalism were police were notified, a complaint was filed, in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, expulsions, unilateral removal by a judge. We need to know about the offenders, student victims, school personnel victims, student victims of violent offenses. The programs for use for disciplinary action, such as the assignments and instructions, the in-district programs, home assignment, home instruction, and district programming. So if we look at the data for that period of September 1st, 2018 through December 31st, July of 2018, we had 24 incidences of violence, 49 incidences of vandalism, 9 incidents of vandalism, 2 incidents of weapons, and substance abuse down to 13 incidences. The number of HIB confirmed incidences was 12. 10-day investigation was all completed within 18 times, and the Board of Education decision rendered 12. The number of HIB alleged incidents was 18. 10-day investigations were all completed within 18 days, and the Board of Education rendered 18 decisions. The next page is the data that my office has been tracking since 2010, and you can see we're kind of on target for, based on period 1, for a pretty decent year after coming off the first year of our new substance abuse policies and procedures, especially with vaping. That occurred a lot in the high school. Every incidence in which someone was vaping, we assume is to be a drug transaction or a drug usage, because we don't know what's in the vape. It's not like we caught a child with a pack of Marlboros, we know it's a pack of Marlboros. When you find someone vaping, you don't know what's in it, so you have to assume it's a controlled dangerous substance, and we send them out for testing to be on the safer side. And because we take such an active role in that, it did elevate our numbers from last year, but apparently the message got out because it declined went from 73 for 2 periods down to 13 for the half period. The confirmed HIB incidences, this is a period and a half where we had to not track not only the confirmed issues, but the alleged. You see, prior to 2016-17, you didn't have to track the alleged amounts. So last year we had 21 confirmed out of 70 alleged. This year, so far, the first period from September to January, it was 12 confirmed and 18 alleged. So that seems like it's going to be down a little bit too, because I can't imagine the second half that we had almost 50 more. So hopefully that will stay at a lower number as well. And that completes the report.
Thank you. Do we have any correspondence?
We do have correspondence.
Ah.
The business office received this request from the noon hours supervisor of the high school. Could you please read this at the next board meeting? Thank you for the from the high school noon hours this was a thank you written to them by a scholarship recipient for a scholarship in which they sponsor. First off, I want to thank you guys so much for nominating me for this scholarship. Every day I would grab my lunch and turn to the corner in the lunchroom to be greeted by beautiful smiles and a hello. We would stop and talk for a few minutes, and I would carry on with my day. Looking back over those times, it's something I will never forget. The connection I had with you guys was something I didn't have with many teachers and or faculty. The reason being is because I could tell you actually cared. Whether it would be a good or bad day, at least I could stop by for a second to talk to real, genuine people. Our teachers didn't really care as much. and I feel like we were all friends when we saw each other. I guess there's a reason that's why you call you lunch moms. Because of those, it just was cut off there because it was a copy of it. Because of those minutes you put in to figure, I definitely noticed it. I cannot thank you enough. P.S. Hopefully you can read this. I know my handwriting is not the best. Ha ha. Tyler Gray. That concludes our correspondence.
Thank you. Special committee reports. Okay, Mr. DePrima?
Okay, I had an athletic, food service, medical service meeting on May 30th. It was kind of not abbreviated, it was just a short meeting, not a lot going on. Head nurse Baker reported that the nursing staff would be meeting with the elementary schools to coordinate medicines. The State Nurses Association is looking at a new drug, a cannabis derivative, and upon FDA approval, may be able to administer CBD. The National, the National Association of School Nurses is moving more towards the 21st century. We must have Narcan accessible at all high school events. EpiPens are getting harder to find and are very expensive. The free supplies that Nurse Baker used to get are no longer available. A new medication, I'm not sure how to say this or spell it, Cortec, if anybody knows what that is available to treat adrenal inefficiency. Doctor writes the order to administer, can self-administer, student must supply, and then a discussion followed on any of those points. There was a lot going on with food services. Michelle Feliciano, Sodexo General Manager, reported on the various events, new programs, and special events going on throughout the school year. Sodexo sponsored the Battle of the Grades recipe contest in middle school, Super Bowl specials at secondary school, and March Madness also at secondary school. Breakfast at Sandburg started in May, and the Salk Breakfast Cart started in mid-May. We hosted the Middlesex County Unsung Heroes Dinner in March, which was catered by Sodexo. They always go above and beyond in their menu presentation. I could speak from experience. We used to go to different schools for this dinner, and it was nothing like the presentation we do. Sodexo sponsored the Future Chefs competition, also in March, won by Hannah Nappy of Cooper School. Sodexo also raised $1,200 for the Sodexo Memorial Scholarship Fund. I will be organizing some sort of training, probably in late August, on operating the equipment in the concession stand. As the volunteers change, new people must be trained and certified in the operation and upkeep of the equipment. As the years go on, people that were originally certified and trained no longer show up or have anything to do with the school anymore, so we got to get the new batch ready for it. Dan Domino, the athletic director, reported on the fantastic sports year we had. The accomplishments this year are actually too numerous to list. Some highlights include girls soccer team making the GMC semifinals and state sectional finals, beating East Brunswick on the final, beating East Brunswick on the final ever Thanksgiving Day Battle of Route 18. Field hockey making the GMC finals. Boys basketball were the Red Division champs, first time in school history. Hockey team advancing to the second round of state playoffs. Baseball team was the GMC conference champs with the most wins in school history. Girls lacrosse were the Red Division champs. And this actually happened after the meeting, but it's I guess an addendum. The boys volleyball team are the state champs for the second year in a row. It's unheard of, and congratulations to you guys. Issues for follow-up are the ServSafe certification of various PTSA members and other groups using the concession stand. And some concerns from the public was the field hockey team needs new or additional goalie equipment. Mr. Domino will be looking into that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DePrima.
Also, in the end of May, we had a technology committee meeting, our final one of the year. A few of the updates is actually just, I believe, this past week, Memorial School submitted their application to be a Silver Future Ready School, and there are two other schools working on submitting theirs. One of the really best things we had was a preview or presentation from Mr. Barukia from Sandburg and what the children are doing there with technology and Minecraft. And they actually created a orientation, an online orientation for the incoming class to give them a navigation through the school. We also, I believe it's actually in the agenda, the updated technology plan is being presented, and it was Mrs. Moran's last meeting as director. So that was it for the year, and we'll meet again in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any others? I don't think so, right? No. Okay, so we're going to move on to the hearing of residents on agenda action items only. If you'd like to speak on an agenda item, please come up to the podium. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to move on to policy.
We'll just let you guys speak because I think what you're going to speak about is not an agenda item anymore, but we'll let you speak about it anyway because I'm sure you still have a curfew even though school's out.
Even though you don't have any homework. There's a button.
Okay. Good evening. We are the students representing Mrs. White and the Carl Sandburg music program. News about Mrs. White's transfer has impacted students and staff. Throughout the whole situation, we have not gotten a clear answer as to why Mrs. White is being transferred. We find it hard to understand the story and the reasoning and believe we deserve a truthful answer to why this is occurring. The importance of her role here in Sandburg is immeasurable. She is the only African-American faculty member in Sandburg, and as the only Black educator, many students, especially minorities, look up to her for guidance and representation. It is unfair to affect 2 music programs and the rest of the student body along with the staff as well. We would all like a straight and honest answer about why this is happening and why Ms. White can't stay. We hope that this decision has come from a standpoint of what is good for the students and their education, as well as the pros and cons have been weighed in our favor rather than in the favor of educational politics.
Music is one of the most important things to learn about in school. It activates both hemispheres of the brain and makes each student much stronger. Taking away the foundation of this program isn't just moving a teacher, it's changing a whole program forever. Taking Mrs. White and putting her in SALC would change the students who participate in the Sandburg music program. Many students feel safe with Mrs. White and have gotten comfortable performing with her. We students should be able to have an opinion on her move. This is our program, and the students should help influence the decisions surrounding our program. It is inevitable that students will drop out of the program. Students in the music program will experience a much more impactful change with this new teacher, and the adjustment period will last for a long time. And there's no doubt that students will feel underrepresented. We would all just like to know why the vacancy at SALC cannot easily be filled by this new teacher and change one program, rather than moving Mrs. White and changing 2 programs. We students just want a chance to be heard and considered, so please do not dismiss our concerns immediately. Thank you for listening to our concerns and considering our points of view in this matter. We are leaving this discussion open to any board member who would like to address our questions.
Mrs. White is a very important teacher at Carl Sandburg. She not only inspires everyone, but has a way of making people smile. She is the only Black teacher at Sandburg, and in a school that is supposed to celebrate diversity, this is not the case. For example, this year for Black History Month, she made an assembly celebrating some important people in history. She creates such a warm environment in her classroom that always makes you want to learn. Sandburg would have lost a great one if she leaves Sandburg.
So we've made like a list of questions. Why can't the vacancy be filled with this new teacher rather than Mrs. White? We haven't gotten a straight and honest answer yet.
Sometimes the difficult part is we can't always give everyone the answer because every employee is protected by their personnel record and their personnel information. So while I'd love to give you every detail of every decision. I can't speak to personnel items because at times they're personal, and that's why.
I understand that, but I feel like as someone, and a lot of students in my school could relate, there's not a lot of colored staff. And Miss White is like the only colored staff, and losing her would just be like a lot.
And I totally understand the need for diversity. We do a lot to try to recruit more diverse staff, and at times it's difficult to find the applicants that reflect that diversity, and we place them wherever the opening is and not where the diversity, the lack of diversity is. In this measure, and what we're doing this year, you know, I'm sure you know, you read the papers and everything, is a very difficult year with positions, and every position we could try to save the livelihood of a teacher, we did. And this is part of those moves. While it's, you know, Miss White, I can only speak glowingly about her work in the district, even watching her children perform as they went through Salk School. She's done a great job professionally and personally as a mother and as an educator. So it has nothing to do with her ability as either. It has to do with looking at those personnel pieces, making decisions that allow us to save money so we can have programs for you and not eliminate more programs, and maintaining personnel for those programs. And when we have to make those decisions, sometimes there are little final or minute things within the personnel matters that conflict with our policies and practices that make these changes necessary.
I understand that, and is two questions, well, two
Okay.
things. It's related to budget cuts, or?
Well, everything this year is related to the state aid cuts. So in doing so, we're down positions. And when we're down positions, we look for people who hold certifications that are, I would say, more, have ample certifications or additional certifications so that we can move them into positions without eliminating positions. So we're not letting someone out of a job because of the cuts, so we can put them in a positioning where we have an opening. The additional piece to this is that there are conflicting parts of moving the personnel around, and we have to do it very delicately, and sometimes it doesn't please everyone. We had a conversation today with another teacher who was a fantastic super teacher, and no one wanted to see the teacher leave their school. But in this giant puzzle in which we're trying to put together, sometimes we have to move people around in these very difficult times. So one, it doesn't help, we don't lose a program, and two, so we don't lose staff and they can maintain their livelihood and have jobs.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I understand that. Julia, can I go back, Mr. Matthews?
Though this, you know, is all occurring, any change to any program would cause, like, I wouldn't say damage, but it would definitely change the program. It doesn't matter if we got a Juilliard professor in, kids would still be discouraged by the move of Miss White. And we understand that the issue is like personnel and that it's private, but can you give us as close to an understanding as possible as to why the vacancy in Salk can't be filled by this other teacher rather than Mrs. White?
I'm sorry that I can't.
And to add on to the whole idea of like the damage of the music program, last year or 2 years ago, recently, we had an orchestra teacher who was brilliant. His name was Mr. Matthews, and he left the music program, and we had like we had a good orchestra, and everyone was always playing music. It was a very good program until he left, and our band director had to pick it up and conduct the program herself. And that resulted in like a lot of chaos, and it was just a lot of students dropped out. It was just it was falling apart, and we lost something really special about Sandburg.
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't want the same thing to happen with the choir, who is a superior choir. We went to competition, we
No
won
doubt.
awards, so we just want to do whatever we can to protect it and also keep the diversity in Sandburg protected.
I definitely understand that, and just because, and it's totally, I'm not just putting pressure on any teacher, but just because of where you're housed doesn't mean you can't give input and help out anybody who's moving into your place, and to help the transition as little as possible. I know Ms. White is a class act, and she'll help in the transition in any way she can, because she only wants to see you guys succeed.
I know.
She's very proud of the work that you do.
I understand that, but if she does go to Salk, I know she'll do her best and like do whatever she can, but she does a lot for this school, a lot, and if she's gone, I don't know how someone else can fill those gaps in. This was the first year we ever had any representation or like celebration for the African Americans in our school, and like a Black History Month assembly that was never there before until Ms. White stepped up and did something. And if she's replaced with not a teacher that isn't a colored teacher, that's gonna leave, and it's going to be.
I understand. Certain parts of it, by administrative code, we have to recognize and celebrate Black History Month every year, so she may have done a better job than we've done in the past, but I'm sure there was some levels of it, and if there wasn't, there will continue to be some. I can't promise to be as great as Ms. White puts together, but there has to be some recognition of it.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
but do you mean as in like the celebration or the continuing of having those type of assemblies or like those type of discussions?
It doesn't necessarily have to be an assembly, but there has to be recognition and celebration of the contributions of African Americans to our history and to our country every year.
Because
And we have to send the report to the state that we did so.
because until okay, that's what I wanted
Okay.
to say.
And I'll make sure that we try to do something as special next year. Won't be the same, no doubt. Change never is the same. Thank you for your time and your energy.
Thank you, girls.
I just want to ask, is there anything that could be done to save her from leaving the school?
The, I believe the transfer was on last week's agenda, so it already took place.
It's done, it's over with?
At this point, yes.
Okay.
Okay, is there anybody else but on agenda action items? Okay, we're going to move on to policy. Mr. Parton?
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes,
you want to
Mr.
make your
Parton,
comments?
what we'll do, since this is the first reading, we'll go over it entirely in August, I guess.
All right.
Okay? It'll be a little easier then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The policy committee met on June 4th, and as is typical, many of the policies on the agenda are based on updated state mandates, and in many cases on minimal updates in language without any substantive change. So among the 16 board policies, 11 administrative regulations, and 1 board bylaw for first readings tonight are a few that are legally significant or operationally significant, so I'm going to go through those. The others are really language changes, as those of you who enjoyed the policy committee meeting will recall. So policy 2422, clarifying the separate requirements for weekly health and physical education, as well as recess for grades K through 5, and also requires instruction to middle school students on risky behavior on social media. That is being adopted and is a reformed policy. Policy 2431.3 implements the NJSIAA, which is the high school athletic oversight agency in the state, implements their preseason acclimation requirements for the safety of your fall student athletes, whose season begins not in the fall but in the hottest days of the year. So those are safety protocols that are being adopted into policy now, not that you haven't had them in the past, but now they're part of your policy. Policy 4219 implements updated federal drug and alcohol testing requirements for all public employees working under a commercial driver's license. This affects in Old Bridge your locally employed bus drivers. And this is, as I said, a federal regulation, but it is an increase in the frequency and nature of both drug and alcohol testing for cause and, more importantly, random as a national safety initiative. Policy 5330.04 applies updated state law on opioid antidotes, another safety issue, requiring antidotes to be present and available at all high school level buildings. This is an initiative that Old Bridge has had in place since, I believe, 2015. It is now required by state law. It's adopted into your policy, but it does not create a change in your district because, to your credit, you've had this in place for some time. Policy 5337 updates districts' obligations in the important area of the provision and scope of reasonable accommodations, here in the context of service animals, which is a growing issue nationwide and a developing area of law and of policy. Policy 5756 has been updated to incorporate the New Jersey law against discrimination into your transgender student policy to ensure that, as with all students, that students in specialized populations are treated with the utmost care and dignity. Policies and regulations in the second group listed on page 5 are all being updated, and you heard Mr. Cittadino mention that the EVVRS is now the SSDS. This is what you missed at the policy meeting. These 6 policies and 7 regulations have been updated to change the language and the reference to the laws. There's a large chunk of them in the second box on page 5, which is why I mention it, but there's no substantive change. Lastly, we have a first reading tonight of revised board bylaw 0162, notice of board meetings, which is a public safety revision at the request of the administration and with the consensus support of the committee, clarifying the need for adequate actual notice to the superintendent to enable the board to move board meetings to a facility with a larger fire code occupancy limitation when necessary. As you know, normally your agenda meetings are at the administrative building. Your regular meetings are here, and in some instances there is a reason to go to a bigger room, such as the auditorium. But to hear that simply through rumors is inadequate, and we don't want to violate any fire codes. So to avoid people being shut out of meetings, we're clarifying that bylaw so that people can reach out to Mr. Cittadino if there is any sort of an organized group coming to the microphone to voice their opinions, make sure everybody's safe, and that we have adequate room. And that's the summary of the policy meeting from June 4th and what's on for first readings tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Pardon. Very well done.
Okay, moving on to curriculum and professional development. Okay. May I have a motion, please, to move items 1 through 8?
Dunn will make a motion to move curriculum, professional development, items 1 through 8, Madam President.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Lent will second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski,
Yes.
DeCaro,
Yes.
DePrima, Dunn,
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 8 passed.
Okay, moving on to athletics. May I have a motion, please, to move item number 1?
Reed will motion item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Have a second, please?
DeCaro will second.
Thank you, Mrs. DeCaro. Any discussion?
Yes, Ms. Kelly, there's an administrative correction on item number 1 on page 8. Item L, Alec Allsbach. It indicates in the second box, Old Bridge High School assistant coach. It should say Old Bridge High School head coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski,
Yes.
DeCaro,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Thank you. Okay, under finance, we have 1 through 29. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Dunn will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Reed. Silikowski.
Yes.
DeCaro.
Yes.
DePrima.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Lent.
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 29 pass.
Okay, non-certificated personnel office. May I have a motion, please, to move items 1 and 2?
DeCaro will move.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Silikowski.
Yes.
DeCaro.
Yes.
DePrima.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Lent.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2.
Non-certificated personnel operational items 1 and 2. May I have a motion, please?
Dunn will move non-certificated personnel operational items 1 and 2, Madam President.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
DeCaro will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Silikowski.
Yes.
DeCaro.
Yes.
DePrima.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Lent.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
Thank you. Okay. Non-certificated personnel, other.
I would like to separate number 5.
Okay.
And 1 for discussion.
Okay, so we're separating out item 1 and 5. Okay. May I, how many are we?
I'll move it.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so discussion, any discussion on items 2 through 4 and 6 through 6? Sorry. So, I'm sorry, any discussion on 2 through 4 or 6? Okay, discussion on number 1?
Yes, we have 3 retirees this particular month, and the first one is Valerie Piano. She had 11 years of service, and she was a noon hour supervisor. She's retiring with 11 years, and I wish her a lot of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solikowski. Anybody else on item number 1? Okay. Discussion on number 5?
Yes, Ms. Callie, on number 5, on the attachment C6, we just need to remove the name Barbara Stiano. She resigned above It's on attachment C6. Remove Barbara Staiano.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mara. So now anybody else? Okay, so now we're voting on 1 through 4 and 6, and we're going to separate out item number 5. So, roll call, please.
DeCaro,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Solikowski,
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 1 through 4 and number 6 pass.
Okay, and now a roll call on number 5.
DeCaro,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Abstain?
Reed,
Yes.
Solikowski.
Yes.
Callie.
Yes,
Resolution 5 passes.
thank you. Okay, moving on to certificated personnel, we have items 1 through 40.
Dunn will move certificated personnel items 1 through 40, Madam President.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, Ms. Callie, on item number 31, we will be adding another line item B with the name Lisa, Lisa Donofrio, Donofrio, with a BS degree. In the next box, CEAS-elementary-K through 6, CEAS-TOSD, and it's $175 per diem. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, separating number 10 and number 15 for discussion, please, and voting purposes.
Okay, seeing as I already asked if there's any discussion as a whole, so we will open discussion on item 10.
I would also like to separate 33, 34, and 35 for discussion as I'm going through the agenda.
Okay, Mr. Solikowski, did you want to discuss these items each separately?
Yes, each one separately. Thank you.
Okay, so discussion on number 10, please?
Okay, number 10 and number 15. I'm confused over here. Maybe Dr. Hoker can clarify it. Okay, move the board employ blank supervisor of supervisor special education for 2019 summer employment for 20 days. And the other one, move the board employ blank supervisor of special ed again. What's the difference between the two?
One supervisor is in charge of the secondary level, and one supervisor is in charge of elementary and not just special education, but also literacy.
Okay, that wasn't specified in the agenda, that's why now you clarified it, no problem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of 10 and 15. Discussion on number 33?
Yes, I did a little research. I learned how to use Google on a computer, and I spent a couple of evenings Googling a lot of salaries and a lot of positions across the world and the country and what people are really making for a living. And I'd like to go over a couple of them. Okay, the President of the United States, he makes $400,000 a year. Out of that $400,000 a year, he donates $400,000 to the Veterans Administration and other charities. The Vice President has a salary of $230,000 and has a 4-year contract. United States Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of all the other cabinets, their salaries are $210,000 a year. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, $193,000 a year. Remember, this is the Supreme Court Justice. Other Supreme Court justices, $186,000, and the Superior Court judges, which are local judges throughout different counties, they make $165,000 a year. The state prosecutor, that person makes $165,000 a year. The former governor of the state of New Jersey, Chris Christie, he had that position. That's all he made. The governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, he makes $175,000 a year. The lieutenant governor, Shelley Oliver, she makes $141,000 a year. That's what she's making. United States senators, these aren't local senators. These are U.S. senators. Example, Cory Booker, Bob Mendez, $174,000 a year. The U.S. Congress, an example, Frank Pallone, I shouldn't mention his name, but I will. He makes $174,000 a year. Speaker of the House, he makes $193,400, and that's the fellow Speaker of the House in Washington. U.S. ambassadors, remember, these people, they're there 12 months out of the year, and they live wherever they're stationed. Generally, they're appointed by the president or a subcommittee. They start, depending on the size of the country and their experience, they start at $140,000 and they end up at $181,500. That's all they make. Remember, they're there 24 hours a day. Members of the New Jersey General Assembly, this is a good one. I had a lot of fun with this one on the computer. They receive a salary of $49,000 a year. And they also get $110,000 for staff salaries. In other words, they can have 2 secretaries or whatever. They also get $12,500 postage stamps and stationery to go along with it, to push their agendas, whatever they may be. Well, now we're going down the ladder. New Jersey state senators, for example, Sam Thompson, forget I said his name, he makes $141,000 a year. That's all he gets. Middlesex County Clerk, here's a good one. It's a 12-month position. She gets 12 sick days, and she gets a month vacation. Her salary is $54,900 only. Speaker of the New Jersey Senate, Steve Sweeney, he makes $174,000. Do you know why these salaries aren't above $175,000? Because the governor only makes $175,000. So they put a cap on all these things. But yet there's no caps in the real world over here. I mean the artificial world. Middlesex County, Superintendent of Schools. This is the county superintendent. He monitors 26 different districts in our county. His salary is only $120,000. I'm not finished. The New Jersey State Commissioner of Education, the state of New Jersey, his salary is $175,000 at the same level with the governor. The average salary for school superintendents in Middlesex County is $178,793 as of May 19th. And I spent a couple hours looking for this. The average length of a superintendent's contract is 3.2 years in the state of New Jersey, 3.2 years. They don't give out 5-year contracts too often because they can't lock new board members coming in, because remember, board members, there's 3 that run each year. So if automatic this year 3 lose, the following year 3 lose, and the following year 3 lose, we have an entirely new board and the same superintendent. This is why they do this. Okay, when contracts are drawn up, they should be drawn up for a 3-year period. When I was board president 3 years ago, when I left the area, I left the chief school administrator in our district over here. I don't even know who he was at the time. He was making $176,776. That's all he was making. And the reason why is they had a cap of 177.5 at the state level. Okay? So we try to keep it within the cap. I left for 2 years, and automatically they gave somebody an increase of $20-something thousand for the same position. Now, like I said once before, we have a freight train that's running on a track that's out of fuel, it's washed out ahead, and we just keep spending this money like this. No, I don't know. That's the entire area over here. What we have to do is we have to think before we spend the money. And we can't lock future boards into long contracts. That's the way it works. You want me to continue? I'm not finished. Okay, the way it should work is a superintendent, whoever it may be, the first year, they come in, they look at the situation, they evaluate it, and they list all the accomplishments that they would like to complete in the second year. The second year, they work on their goals and see what they can do. In the third year, all their goals should be successful, and then the board evaluates them. That's what I'm really going to say on this one, okay? I think you people got the picture. Thank you.
So Mr. Salkowski, I think, brings up a good point about New Jersey. It is one of the highest taxed. It's also one of the highest paying states in the country. There's certainly valid points that he brought up. When we look at contracts, and I believe, and there's some people who've been on the board longer than me, so please correct me if I'm incorrect, and I know, Mr. Porton, you've been here. The first contract, I believe, with Mr. Cedadino, his first term, if we would call it that, was a 3-year contract, which is very common, I believe, for first-year superintendents. I believe it is also common, though, for second or third contracts to be greater than 3 years. I can say that the board each year gives goals to the superintendent, so regardless of who the superintendent is, are given goals that they have to perform and are evaluated, which all go to the county superintendent. I know it seems very large dollars. I think if you look at the dollars compared to districts of our size, and I think that's the only thing you can look at, is comparing our district to other districts that are our size. I think that the pay is comparable, and in some cases lower. I know there are districts that are much smaller than ours, and that is one of the issues of the structure of districts in New Jersey. There are districts that are extremely small, but have almost the same kind of overhead we do in a large district. So South River, some of these other smaller districts also have that, with superintendents who actually get paid more. The one thing I would counter is say that it is not a 5-day-a-week, 8-hour-a-day job. As many people know who either call or contact or see Mr. Cedadino around town, it's not just during the day, and it's not just on the weekends. I can tell you as board members, we contact him all the time. Now, this is a contract that is up in 2 more years, and it is something that is available to the public, and we're just acknowledging that statement. But I would say a testament to his commitment to the district is the recognition that we said earlier of him not accepting and donating back his increase. So I think there's, again, some valid points that Mr. Salkowski brought up. I think it's the nature of living in this state that we all feel. So I just wanted to counter some of that stuff.
Didn't mention any names, and you just kept going on with the name. I was asked not to mention any names. Okay? I spoke about contracts and positions, not names. Because like I said before, I don't know who the superintendent was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I completely, senior moment. But I know what the person was making, or the contract, what it paid at the time. And I believe the 3 board members that voted in this contract are still on the board. 3 are no longer here. And now we have 3 new members, myself, I'm going to mention the names, Lisa Lent and Jill DeCara. We had nothing to do with this contract. We inherited it. That's what I'm going to say.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Dunn.
A couple things. Mr. Solikowski is trying to compare apples and oranges. Political figures are elected to office, and they do it for power purposes. And obviously, most people who are elected, whether it's a state representative or Congress, these people are multimillionaires. So they do it for influence and for, the power that they retain. A superintendent has an inordinate amount of responsibilities, an awesome position. And quite frankly, you know what? You pay what you get for. You pay what you get. And quite honestly, this district has done exceedingly well under the stewardship of the current superintendent. And yes, you may have amnesia, but you were on the board as well 3 years ago. So the fact of the matter is that our superintendent is doing an incredible job here, and we're paying the benefits. Our children are getting the benefits of what's going on. So quite frankly, I understand your point, but people who are elected, they're there for the power and not for doing things. So please, let's not compare apples and oranges. I know you're trying to make a point, Mr. Solikowski, but this is not the forum to do it.
I'm not here to argue with you, but I'm an elected official, and I'm not looking for any power.
I would disagree with that.
Jill, if I may add? To echo what Mr. Dunn said, what Mrs. Ellis-Forster said, Mr. Solikowski does have a lot of valid points. But also to echo what Mrs. Ellis-Forster said, as far as the past contracts, I'm not going to be political or mention names. As far as past contracts, there was goals instilled, and increases were based on those goals. They were called merit increase, I believe. So if you did not reach your goal, you did not get the raise. It was very simple. I mean, in my tenure here, the goals have been met by whoever the person may be, the superintendent is. Some of you know I am a past president. The day after I got put in as president, I got a call, maybe like 4 o'clock in the morning. We were going to have a snow day. The call came from somebody that was up, I don't know how much before that, checking, radar and meteorologists and surrounding towns. And there are no hours to this position. Is it a lot of money? Yeah, of course it is. Is it worth it? Yeah, up until this year, we've had a stellar school district. And this year, there's been some changes which was beyond anybody in this room's control. Whether you believe it or not, it happened. So I just wanted to build on those 2 points.
Can I speak? I was not on the board when we voted on this contract. And just to echo what we were explaining to these young ladies earlier, it's nothing personal. It's budget cuts and everything else. And I have to be honest, if I was on the board right now and we were voting on a contract similar to this, I would vote no, because the bottom line is budget cuts should be across the board. Now, that being said, I happen to like Mr. Cittadino as a person. I think he's doing a fantastic job. It is a lot of money, though. And so I just agree with Mr. Solikowski that if we were given the opportunity to vote on the contract again or to renew it right now, I don't know full-heartedly if I could say yes to that. I mean, budget cuts have to be across the board, and some people do a fantastic job, just like the music teacher, an unbelievable job, and I'm sure she's worth every penny we pay her, but sometimes we just can't afford to pay for the best. And we want the best, and I expect everyone to do their best, but I agree with Matt.
So the reality of it is that this is not a contract negotiation year for our superintendent. So all of this discussion is really for nothing, because there's nothing that we're doing or can do about it. But I would like to reiterate how the superintendent on this very agenda did donate his increase this year back to the district. I really honestly do not know one other superintendent in this district, and I've known about 4 or 5 of them over my years here, that would have done that. And he's done that because he cares about this district and he's trying to lead by example. And I don't even know why this is really a discussion, because this is not up for renegotiation right now. Do you understand?
This is just to inform the public. That's what it's all about. Because no matter how we
It's
vote.
on the agenda for an acknowledgement. There's no action there. It's just an acknowledgement.
Whether you vote yes or no, the chief school administrator is still going to be here for another 2 years because he has a contract for that period of time. But we still have a right, or on our opinion, why we wouldn't vote for it, okay? For the simple reason, I think it's inflated, and that's all there is to it.
Okay. I just want to say a few things, and again, I'm reiterating, this is not up for a vote. It's just an acknowledgement of the continuation of another year. I do want to point out that the numbers that are right there in your agenda, if you have a copy of it, are a little misleading, because by the time you donate $4,000 back, you're back to your year 2 salary. I do have some figures in front of me from other districts, but I'm not going to belabor that point because I believe Ms. Ellis Foster made a couple of these points, but one of the most glaring things in this chart that I was given is South River, that has 2,226 students, which is, and the math is not my forte, but it's probably about a quarter. That superintendent's salary is $200,875 for 4 times less the amount of students. So you have to take things into perspective. The last thing I wanted to point out was in 2008, and don't get me wrong, I believe Dr. Bosco did a great job. 2008, he got a $17,000 increase. I don't know who was on the board in 2008. Anybody?
I was. And I voted no on that one.
Okay, all right. $230,000, it was a $17,000 increase.
You have to remember, Dr. Bosco spent 40 years in this district. He had a doctorate degree, and he was a principal and a vice principal for X amount of years. Okay? That's the way it works.
Okay.
It's not only seniority, but your background, too.
But, yeah. Yeah.
He was never a principal.
I don't believe
Madam
Dr.
President,
Bosco
can we
was
move
ever
on,
a
please?
principal. I don't want this to turn into a debate, because there really isn't anything to debate. This item is not up for a vote. It's just an acknowledgement of the continuation of a contract that was signed 2 years ago. So,
Can I give the...
wait, can
Go
I
ahead,
finish?
finish.
Can I finish? Thank you. About 15 years ago, when I had a friend who became a lawyer, and she was working ridiculous hours, almost 20 hours out of a 24-hour day. And as most of you know, I'm a legal assistant, which is a fancy name for a legal secretary. And one of the things that we still joke about is that she finished college and she went to law school and she became an attorney, and I was making more per hour than she was. When my kids were in school, they barely knew the superintendent's name. If they passed the superintendent on the street, they wouldn't have known, and more importantly, he wouldn't have known them. I think, and I'll go home and do the math, I can't do it off the top of my head, I don't think anybody sitting here can, no matter what their degree of education is. But if you were paying your current superintendent per hour, pretty sure you could probably go to Burger King. But that's all I have to say.
Okay, I was going to say something, a little historical background. Going back to 2008 or 2009, back then the elections took place in April. The average vote came in for a board member, which was about 1,500 to 2,000 people. In that particular year, the taxpayers voted the budget down. We were behind around $3.5 million. So we had to go to City Hall and speak to the town council. And at that time, the superintendent of schools, I won't mention any names again, I got up and I looked at him and I said, why don't you set an example to the community and to everybody else around here and freeze your salary? And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. So I want to commend our superintendent over here for freezing his salary. But the wheel wasn't invented here. It was invented many, many years ago. That's what I want to bring up, a little historical background.
Now I have a whole bunch of papers covering my agenda. Are we still separating out 34 and 35 for discussion?
Yes. Okay. Dr. Hoker, again, thank you for taking a salary freeze. Mr. Reed and myself, we've been unemployed for quite a few years. We were both retired educators, and when Chris Christie got into office around 9-10 years ago, he said, that's it, you're finished, no more increases. And we haven't gotten an increase in 10 years, and we're happy with it. That's the way it works, okay? Okay, that's number 34. Number 35, I want to thank Mr. Mara. In fact, in the future, we should look for more people, not like Mr. Mara, but in the same position where he doesn't take any medical benefits. He's saving this district about $40,000. The only thing he takes, I imagine, is prescription. No, he doesn't take the prescription because that comes with his wife's package. She was a school teacher. So in reality, as time goes on, we should look for more people that are qualified, similar to his status, where we can hire these people and save the district about $30,000 to $40,000 per person. Thank you, Mr. Merrill. That's it. Now let's vote.
Well, I just have a question. Are you unemployed or are you retired?
Vote.
If there's nothing further, roll call, please, Mr. Mara. Yes, we're voting on 1 through 40, yes? We're not separating anything out?
No. We're separating the ones I just discussed. Let me go back to this agenda. There's too many pages here.
Okay, so roll call on 1 through 9, 11 through 14, 16 through 32, and 36 through 40.
Separating 33, 34, and 35 for
Got it.
voting purposes.
Got it all. Got it.
Not 10 and 15? Not,
Okay, so adding to what I just said, we're going to add 10 and 15. So DeCara,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski,
Yes.
Callie.
yes.
So resolutions 1 through 9, 11 through 14, 10 and 15, 16 through 32, and 36 through 40 pass. Now on resolution 33, DeCarroll,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski,
Yes. Congratulations, you're here for a couple more years.
Callie. Callie?
Yes.
On resolution 33 passes. Resolution 34, DeCarroll,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski.
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolution 34 passes, and resolution 35, DeCarroll,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski.
Yes, and thank you, Business Administrator. That's a proposal I came up with around 10 or 15 years ago, that if we have a member in the family, husband or wife,
Matt,
whatever it may be.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
we got to stop talking about family members. Just say that you like it.
No,
when
no, no,
people
no,
come-
no,
But
no.
just limit it to the benefit of employees waiving benefits.
Yeah, this is a waiver to basically waiver the benefits. And this is a proposal I came up many years ago, and we have, I believe, quite a few people that are doing it now, and it's saving the district a heck of a lot of money. Thank you.
Callie?
Yes.
Resolution 35 passes.
Mr. Solikowski? In your excitement to get the numbers out, you didn't do number 1.
I included number
Is that?
Retirees. You didn't do the retirees that you do.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Okay, I'd like to congratulate the 3 retirees, Valerie Piano, Karen Minch. Karen Minch, I worked with her for quite a few years before I retired. A heck of a good nurse, and plus I had a lot of contact with her and Carol Brown at Carl Sandburg Middle School because my grandkids went there. And my granddaughter's always sick, by the way, so I had to deal with the nurse. And I want to thank them for the 40 years of service. They were good years, and I wish them a lot of luck with their retirement. Thank you, Mr. Citadino.
Thank you, Mr. Solikowski. Okay, moving on to non-certificated personnel transportation, item 1. May I have a motion, please?
I will move transportation, item number 1, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Second,
Lent will
please.
second.
I'm sorry? Okay, thank you, Ms. Lent. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
DePrima?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Lent?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Solikowski?
Yes.
DeCarroll?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Supplies, equipment, and services, we have items 1 through 10. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who was the second? Thank you. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dunn?
Yes.
Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Lent?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Solikowski?
Yes.
DeCarroll?
Yes.
DePrima?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 10 pass.
Okay, moving on to transportation. I need a motion, please, to move items 1 through 6.
Lent will move it.
Thank you, Ms. Lent. Second, please.
I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Lent? Reed?
Yes.
Solikowski?
Yes.
DeCarroll?
Yes.
DePrima?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 6 pass.
Okay, miscellaneous, we have items 1 through 10. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second, please.
Carol, second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, Ms. Callie, we are administratively removing number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Lent?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Solikowski?
Yes.
DeCarroll?
Yes.
DePrima?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 10 pass.
Thank you. Okay, board secretary and board business, just one item. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Mrs. DeCarroll, second.
Lent will second.
Thank you, Ms. Lent. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Reed,
Yes.
Silikowski,
Yes.
DeCarroll,
Yes.
DePrima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Callie.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to open the floor for the hearing of residents on any school district issue. If you'd like to speak, please come up to the podium. Okay, last call. All right, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. Any old business? New business? Okay. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Yeah, for personnel, just for the chief school administrator evaluation process, to complete that tonight.
Okay, so I need a motion to go into close, oh, and we will,
comment before, Bill?
what?
There's no comments before?
But there can be. You don't.
I'm sorry. Can I?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, because tonight is an important closed executive session because we're going to do the CSA evaluation. And I too have a lot of information to share, and I won't not use names. 2015-16, the then president of the Board of Education was 6 months late in evaluating the superintendent of schools. It was a violation not only of my contract that could have led to litigation, but it was a violation of the administrative code in the state of New Jersey. This compromised the board's power, and even if they weren't in agreement with my position in my evaluation, it compromised their power because they're already 6 months late behind because the president didn't do his job. And he was re-elected and didn't go away, didn't like he went away on vacation. He tried to get back on the board and lost 2 more times. That's the gap there. So then gets back on the board, and this year's superintendent's evaluation didn't take part in it. That's what the people elect you to. By the code of ethics that you swear to, letter D, I will carry out the responsibility not to administer the district, but to make sure with my fellow board members that it is well run. The only authority you have as a board member in hiring any position is the superintendent and his or her evaluation. So when you don't do that after the people elect you, you have basically done a sham. You said, let me be elected to do my job, and then you don't do your job. And it's not like it's one time. There's a pattern of this. It's like saying, I don't like the president, but I don't vote. But when you do that, it's one of 137 million people. When you do it here, you're one of 9. And you have the authority to do something, whether I'm doing my job or not. You have the ability to make change instead of just complaining about it and say you don't deserve it. To sit here and take pot shots when you don't do your own job is a shame, and it's a sham. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. I just wanted to take an opportunity to congratulate the retirees myself. Mr. Silikowski has graciously offered to be our board representative and keep track of the retirements and do the addition, which sometimes goes into the 3 digits during retirements. But in any event, I would like to congratulate the retirees and thank you all for coming. I hope you have a safe and enjoyable summer. We will be back in August. We are going into closed session, and we will not be back. Okay, I need a motion. Did I take a motion for that closed session? I did not. Motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeCarroll.
I'll second.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good night, everyone.